fall out as well. There we go. Okay, so I've got to let Sarah admit you. So if you just want to pop in the chat, it's always useful to know where you're from, whether you're an owner, how long you've had your Thermomix, and what you think of your Thermomix as well. Because it's always lovely to hear. Oh goodness! And if you could all mute yourselves as well. I'm getting loads of feedback now. I'm just going to see if I can turn my microphone off. Okay. Right. Okay, everybody's muted. That's great. So we're gonna get going. Okay. I'll read everybody's chat comments later. But yes, welcome everybody. We're not going to cook this evening. This is just a session for you customers to really get the most out of your machines. And so I can just run through all the functions, show you how to use them, and we'll also have a look at Cookie Do as well. So before we get started, one thing that I always like to show people is how to take the bowl apart. Because this bowl is fantastic. You can just click it apart really easily and it will go in the dishwasher. So in order to take it apart, you've got a lug on here. All I do is I just turn it, just twist it. It will be really stiff the first couple of times you do it. So if you've sort of got weak wrists or weak hands, try and ask somebody else to do it for you, and then it will just loosen off. So you can see how easily that's dropped out. I always put a little cloth or something underneath, just to protect the work surface. And so your blade drops out. Now every part can go in the dishwasher. So all of the accessories can go in the dishwasher too. Obviously not the white housing, the electrical unit, but everything else can go in the dishwasher. So I will often just pre-wash during the day while I'm cooking, and pre-wash in between the different recipes that I'm doing. And then at the end of the day, I will just disassemble all the bowls and put them in the dishwasher. And then when they come out of the dishwasher, at the other end, you just pop your blade in like that, flick it upside down. So hold it, you see I'm holding the blade underneath, and then pop the base back on, and then just give it a little sort of nudge into position so that it aligns with the handle. So that's the bowl. What else can I show you? Sometimes if I've been and done a demo at your house, I also
can I just say,
yep.
Lindsay, you just have to make sure the pins are dry before they go back on the machine. That's the only thing.
Yeah. No, good point. Thanks, Sarah. Oh yeah, I'll just introduce Sarah because and Sue as well. So I run these demos on behalf of not just my own personal customers, but also team members and their customers. So we've got a couple of team members on the call. We've got Sarah, who's been an advisor for, well, a customer for nearly a year. You're coming up to your year anniversary, aren't you, Sarah? And an advisor for about 8 months, I suppose. And then I think Sue as well. Sue Hambleton is with us as well. And Sue's been a customer for nearly 2 years, and an advisor for about a similar amount of time, really, 6 months, something like that. So it's really nice to have you spend the time with us this evening. And again, ladies, if I forget anything, please don't hesitate just to jump on and point that out. Sure. So this is your simmering basket. And that is called a simmering basket because it sits inside the bowl. I usually, and is usually used to cook food, so to sort of steam either rice or vegetables with. Oh, does somebody want to ask a question? No? Okay, so I usually insert it so that the vents line up with the pourer part, so the bit that you would pour any sort of liquids out through, and the hole lines up with the handle. You'll see there's a little hole in there, and that is because on your Thermomix spatula you've got a little lug here, and so the spatula just clips in like this to the simmering basket. So it means that you can lift it out when this is warm, so you don't have to try and get your hands in and pull it out, because that would be quite quite dangerous. So they really do think of everything. You've got a little handle, like a saucepan handle, that clips in, and then also you'll notice there's a sort of recess on handle, and you can just position the spatula on there so that the bowl drains itself, which is also really handy and a really clever design feature that lots of people don't realise. In fact, I was a customer for a couple of years, no, not a couple of years, a few months before I became an advisor. It felt like a couple of years. I cook with it all the time. And I didn't realise this until sort of quite late on. So it's nice to sort of know that these kind of design features exist. This is called the Varoma, which sits on top. We always try and use the Varoma attachment at every demo because it is quite underused as an attachment, and it is a fantastic piece of kit. Not only can you steam vegetables and fish with it and a whole chicken, so often I will just put nearly a whole 2 kilogram chicken in there. I usually put it breast down and fill about with the ends of the legs. Sometimes I have to snip them off to get them in. But you can steam a whole chicken in here over water, and then you get all the chicken stock as well, which you can either use for gravy or in soups. And the chicken will steam through, even a 2 kilogram chicken will steam through in about 55 minutes. So it's a really energy efficient way of cooking. Also, the Varoma unit can be used for fermenting. So when we have a look at the fermentation mode, I will show you how to do that. And also you can prove dough with it. Can I just ask whoever's joined just to mute themselves, please, as they come in, because I've just got a little bit of feedback and it's a bit distracting. So you can ferment dough in here as well. So this is one of our silicone baking mats. Instantly, you can get one of these for free this month if you host a demo and invite 3 or 4 friends around. So it's well worth trying to host a demo this month with your advisor. I know your advisor would be grateful because it's how we share Thermomix with other people and how we introduce Thermomix into other customers' lives. And as a little thank you for doing that, you will either receive one of these, which are brilliant for bread work, brilliant for pastry, or you get a £50 voucher off a Thermomix friend. Or what's the other thing? You get a £50 voucher off. Somebody help me out here. My brain has just gone to mush.
Sorry, is it the
it's the vacuum sealer.
Oh, the vacuum sealer kit, yes, which is brilliant. So we've just released this Sous Vide bundle, which goes alongside the Thermomix. It's one of our offers this month. If you buy a Thermomix, you will get the Sous Vide bundle, which includes the vacuum sealer for half price. Which is a great offer. I've got a vacuum sealer. They sent me one. I haven't used it yet, but I'm really excited about it because I've never had one. I just used to use a one of those Ziploc bags. Yeah, it's well worth hosting that demo this month, and then you get some free goodies as well. So I ferment dough in here. I just wrap it up in my silicone mat, a bit like that, and then pop it in, pop the dough in to my Varoma, and just put some warm water in the bowl, or you can use the Thermomix to bring the water up to sort of 70 degrees. And then you can, the residual heat will be about 37 to 40 degrees in here. And you will be able to ferment dough a little bit faster than if it was sat at room temperature. So you can have pizza dough ready in about half an hour, which is really, can be really useful if you're in a rush. So that's a little bit about the Varoma. Often people get confused when they first have their Thermomix about the Varoma accessory versus the Varoma setting. So in general, when you are using the Varoma, on here, on these 3 dials, can you see my screen there? I think you can, yeah. Just ignore that halo light because that's my sort of light ring showing up. The Varoma temperature can be found on this temperature dial. Can you see when you turn the temperature right round? And so generally, if you are using the Varoma to steam, you need the Varoma temperature setting on the dial. So the 2 go hand in hand because you will need to generate enough steam to cook through whatever you have up here. Okay. So that sort of brings me on to the dials to start with. So this is what we call our home screen. So our home screen has got the 3 dials on, and it's just a slightly different way of cooking, I suppose. When you first have a Thermomix, people are a little bit worried that it's quite different to how they've cooked before. But really, if you think about the cooking process, it is just a sort of a combination of time, temperature, and speed. So how long you cook something for, what sort of temperature, and how often you have to stir it or sort of move it around. So our 3 dials here, whichever dial, if you tap on it and it becomes enlarged, that is the dial that this silver selector will operate. Okay, so as you can see, my temperature and my time dial rather is highlighted or enlarged. So if I just turn my speed selector now, I can adjust the time. Okay, if I tap on the temperature, I can adjust the time all the way from sort of 37 or 40, which is often used when you're warming up the liquid component when you make bread, and you go all the way round up to Varoma setting, which is just above 120 degrees. Now, the Thermomix itself will actually go higher than that when it is using the sort of high temperature function, so sauteing, and also using sugar stages. But you have to be on a guided recipe for that, and that is a safety feature. So if you're making something like caramel, your Thermomix will actually go up to about 180 degrees, but it will only do that within the safety net of a guided recipe. So you can't sort of use your own recipes to make caramel, for example. You have to follow the step-by-step guided recipe on cookie dough. And just a little note there, you have to put in the precise ingredients as well. If you vary the ingredients, so if you wanted to double it or half the recipe, you would find it doesn't work. You have to use it exactly as the recipe states. And then you've got your speed dial. So that goes all the way from a gentle stir over to speed 10, which just makes a bit of a noise, but you don't use speed 10 very much, really only sort of to blend soups and to grind sugar and icing sugar, which we're going to do actually in a minute, because again, one of the sort of most frequently asked questions I get with new owners is how to make various forms of sugar. So when you have a Thermomix, you only ever need to buy white granulated sugar, because you can make caster sugar in 2 seconds, and you can make icing sugar in 10 seconds. I think if I've got a lid handy, I'll show you that.
Just Lindsay, while the Varoma,
yes,
you can also use it for sterilising your jars for when you're making your cupboard fillers.
Yes, brilliant, Sarah, well done. And you can use it for sterilising baby bottles as well. Yeah, so baby bottles and any pieces like dummies and any pieces of baby equipment. So let me just show you, before we do that, I think that one's dirty. Yeah, just use this bowl here. Right, maybe back there. So I'm just going to show you really quickly, and it's also very important when you do, you grind your sugar down, that you have a clean, dry bowl. So I'm just going to put in, and this is handy because it will show you how to put the scales on as well. So from the home screen, this is your home screen. To reveal your functions, you just swipe left across it. So just drag your finger left across it and you'll find the scales. So if I've got the scales there, here we go. My scales are going to come on. Just put that back. I'm just going to weigh in, I don't know, 100 or so grams of sugar. You can always use. I think you can do up to about sort of 500 grams at a time, really. Just put that on. Put the lid. Hang on. Yeah. Oh no, is he at nursery? Oh dear, my 2-year-old's left her favourite toy at nursery. Oh dear. That's not going to be good for bedtime. Okay, so 100 grams has just gone in. Then I just need to close my scales down, just pressing the cross, and then I come back. So I swipe the other way. So I swipe left to get the function screen, and I swipe right to get back to my home screen. And I'm just going to put 10 seconds on the clock. I don't need temperature. And then, in fact, no, I'm going to do 2 seconds first of all, because I'm going to do caster sugar first. And then speed 9. I'll just show you that. She probably won't pick it up. It is, well, you can may see some of the dust coming out of it. So there's your caster sugar in 2 seconds, which is fab. Obviously, if you want to make cakes, you would just do that step first. If you didn't happen to have any caster sugar, you won't need to buy any anymore. So you won't need to have those extra bags in the cupboard. And then if I want to turn it into icing sugar from there, I'm just going to give it 10 seconds at food time. It probably will be done in about 5 seconds. Yeah, I can see it now. I'm just going to stop that. I can see it coming, all this sort of steam coming out of the top of my Thermomix. There is about a 20-second delay on the locking arms releasing from the lid. Again, that's a safety feature. Can you see? There we are. I've got my icing sugar in the bowl, which is brilliant. If I was going to do royal icing, so I used to be a cake maker before I started work full-time with Thermomix. If I was going to grind up my icing sugar for royal icing, I would probably give it about a minute and just do it in 30-second intervals. So let's leave that back in the Thermomix, and we'll just go and have a look at the functions now. Oh yes, don't forget as well, if you want to put your blades into reverse, can you see on the speed dial, you've got the little blades icon, just tap on that, and then you get this little green arrow with reverse enabled. And what that means is that our blades have got 2 sides to them. On one side, they're sharp, and on the other side, they're blunt. So when they spin in the clockwise direction, it's hitting food with the sharp side. So they're going to be doing all the chopping and the mincing and the grinding action. Oh, is somebody off mute? Can I ask you to mute? Thank you. And on the other side, you've got the blunt side. So when they spin the anti-clockwise direction, then that is what is used when you're stirring a risotto or kneading dough and things like that, where you don't really need to chop and grind and mince. So most recipes, well, if you're following a guided recipe and doing something like a risotto, that reverse function will automatically come on. But if you are doing your own recipe, then you just need to remember to touch that arrow, or to touch the blades to put the arrow on, and then touch them again just to release it as well. And the other thing to watch out for is if you are cooking away, sometimes if you inadvertently touch the screen, you might knock that reverse function off. So it's always a good idea just to check that it's there. So let me just have a look in the chat actually. Okay, still very excited, loving it. Oh, brilliant. And Christine says she got her Thermomix yesterday. Yay, hopefully you've had time to play with it.
It's just Amanda. Amanda has asked about, she wants to take it touring, just how you put it into the travel mode. And also you can buy a bag for it if you wish.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So let's have a look at that then before we go into the modes. So I can bring up my main menu. Let's just come back to the home screen. You'll see there's 3 lines on the top left. So under settings, if you scroll down, you come to transportation mode. Just click on that and click activate, and then that will, when you switch it off, it will mean the bowl is locked into position. Okay. Through this, yes.
Sorry. While you're on settings, I know it's one of the first things you should say is the timer turning the tune when it's all finished. You know, each mode's finished down as it just drives a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So you can go while we're on settings as well. We can just have a look at them. So if you want to connect to a different Wi-Fi, so for example, if you go to somebody's house and take your Thermomix with you, you would just go into the Wi-Fi section, and then it will pick up whichever Wi-Fi network you happen to be near, and then you click on it, and then you would just it will prompt you to enter the passcode or the Wi-Fi key. So that's how you do that. The Bluetooth is used for the friend, so they talk to each other. The TM6 and the friend will talk to each other through Bluetooth and communicate in that way. If you scroll down to sounds, as Sarah has rightly said, you really want to reduce your volume down to low. The factory settings are usually on maximum, and the duration as well is maximum. But I have turned the volume down on the finished sound to low and the duration to 10 seconds.
And then you can have a play about with your melody. There's lots of little ones that you can choose from, so you never get bored as a Thermomix owner. Oops. And then again, the next volume, you can see mine is completely off as well. Otherwise, you've got a very loud click there. And yes, it can be a bit annoying. So again, you can change your keyboard layouts. I think that would be if you have got it in a different language. And if you wanted to change your system and measurement for recipes that you do yourself rather than the cookie do ones, because remember, the cookie do system and measurement will change if it's a recipe that requires ounces and pounds rather than grams and kilograms. On cookie do, it will automatically change your scales for you. But if you want to change your own system and measurement, you can do it here and have it weighing in ounces and temperature in Fahrenheit if you want to. If you ever need to do a factory reset, and it isn't as serious as it sounds, because all your data actually is stored through the Cookie Do app. So when you do a factory reset, it is just a hard reset of the machine. The only thing you will lose is your recently cooked history. So that recently cooked history is quite useful if you're going to be traveling and you don't have access to Wi-Fi, because what you can do is you can plan what you want to cook before you go, and as long as you've clicked through a step or two in the recipe on the actual machine, it will be saved in the hard drive on the machine. So if you go to something like, if you go to recently cooked, everything that I have cooked is on the hard drive here in the machine. So this would be accessible without being connected to Wi-Fi or mobile data. So that is also well worth knowing if you're going to be away for a period of time and you don't have access to Wi-Fi. The other thing as well, if you want to hotspot off your phone, what we've discovered, so Sarah pointed this out, is you can't have an apostrophe in the name of your phone. So you would need to change the name of your phone. So for example, mine was set up as Lindsay's iPhone and my Thermomix would never find it. So I've renamed that through my phone settings to just Lindsay iPhone, and now I can hotspot quite successfully. Okay, so I think we've finished off with settings, but yes, like I say, nothing to worry about with a factory reset. They are computers. Sometimes they have a bit of a head fit, and they just need to be completely rebooted. And it will also tell you what sort of Thermomix version that you've got, and you can search for updates, but generally they're pretty good at prompting you for updates. And then I think there used to be the contact details in here actually of is it in there? No, maybe not. There used to be the contact details of Thermomix in here, but they may not be there anymore. No, I don't think they are. That was quite helpful actually to be able to contact customer services. But if you ever need to get in contact with customer services, just get in touch with your advisor and they will point you in the right direction. Okay, so let's come out of there. So still, this is the sort of the main menu. On the main menu, oh, here we are under help. I think you might have, yes, there we go, contact. So that is the phone number for Thermomix head office. So if you need to get in touch with Thermomix head office, it is there under the contact information, and our instruction manual is also on the machine as well as the safety instructions. Okay, so on here as well, we've got access to my recipes. So we'll have a look at this through the Cookie Do app, but this is pulling the data from the Cookie Do app. So everything that you set up on your app, either on your phone or your tablet or through the website, will be shown to you through the screen in the same format. So you'll see I've got a number of bookmarks, which are basically or essentially favorite recipes that you can bookmark, ones that you do sort of a lot. You can also have in here created collections and saved collections. So these are collections that you create yourself. So for example, if you look at my cake folder, this is just a selection of cakes that I've found that I might want to cook or I fancy having a go at, or indeed I have cooked. and I can save them all in one place. So it's just a really good way of being able to organize yourselves. Now, if you go to saved collections, these are all the Thermomix created collections, so published cookbooks, essentially, that you can save onto your machine and have direct access onto the machine. And they range from about sort of 10 recipes to about, as you can see, 100 recipes. And you can get collections, as with recipes, from all around the world. So if we just have a quick look at this, what's one that I usually use, A Taste of India. It's lovely, actually, as cookbook. So if you haven't got this one saved to your Cookie Do account, go and find it, because this is sort of one of the best collections of Indian recipes that we do. And you can just, so here we've got access to over 60 recipes, whichever one you want to cook. Obviously butter chicken is a favorite. If I wanted to do beef madras, I would just tap on that and then I click start cooking and it takes me straight into the recipe. Okay, so there's another thing on here which I wondered if anybody had pointed out, and you won't have this on your machine yet, but I've got it on mine because they let me have access to it, although I haven't actually had time to do anything with it. This, I think you all would have received yesterday, an email just outlining some changes to Cookie Do that are going to be happening in the next few months. So it's really exciting. So as existing customers, you get the option of staying with your existing platform, Cookie Do platform, which costs £30 a year. And then new customers will be, oh, if somebody's off mute, new customers will be given the option to, or not given the option, I think they'll automatically have the latest version of Cookie Do, which they'll be given access to. And on this latest version of Cookie Do, got a number of different new features, but the biggest one is you can create your own recipes. Now mine's going to be blank because I haven't had time to do that, and actually it's telling me I'm offline, which I shouldn't be. But so the idea of this is if you've got your sort of grandmother's favorite cake or your mum's favorite bolognese recipe, you can write it in a format that is compatible with Cookie Do, and it will just appear on your screen. You can also, I believe, save any recipes from sort of the recipe platforms like BBC Good Food and the BBC Recipe Database, and indeed any other recipes anywhere else that you find, you can save them as sort of Thermomix versions too. So that is really exciting. It means you can truly have access to all the recipes that you would ever want to cook directly at your fingertips. Now, for your created recipes will not be shared with anybody else, so they will stay personal to you. You will only be able to see your own created recipes on your Cookie Do account. So hopefully that makes sense. Right, but we can have a look, we'll have a look in Cookie Do a bit more detail a bit later on. So let's go to the modes screen. Would you mind being quiet? Thank you. Just talking to it is my kitchen, my teenager who is coming in asking for pudding. And we've got a number of different modes here. We've got our scales, which we saw, so you can just tap them. And in order to reset them to 0, you would just press that green tear button. Tear just means reset to 0. So obviously if I weigh in, you can see it weighing up like that. The dough mode. Dough mode is fantastic for kneading any form of bread. And generally with the super fast knead function, it will knead in around 2 minutes. So when and this is what I should do, put my Pizza Express pizza recipe into my created recipes. But a few of my customers have told me that is the first one they're going to be putting in. So when I eventually weigh in my or put in my Pizza Express recipe, I won't need to set the dough mode off, because it will do that automatically as part of the recipe. But if you just want to use your scales to weigh in your flour, then you would just set 2 minutes on the clock, something like that, and then set the knead function going. So can you see, because this dial is highlighted, all I needed to do was just turn the silver button round and it will just set off that need function. There we go. Okay, turbo. So turbo, you can alter the time between 1 and 2 seconds just by turning the button. And again, when you've chosen what your time preference is, click on that one, and that just means you now need to just turn this, can you see it, to get going. Not say chopping. So turbo is used for something like chopping nuts, grinding. You can chop chocolate with it quite successfully. It's very short, intense bursts of power. And it's also really useful for getting mixture, so cake mixture in particular, off your blades and your bowl when you finish cooking. So I always give it a couple of blasts on turbo, and then I can just use my spatula to pick up all the residue that splatters off around the side. What else can you use turbo for? So you can sort of grind coffee beans, actually using turbo, and grind flours down from grains. Okay, so the pre-clean function pretty much sort of does as it says on the tin. You've always got a little guide for how to use these functions. You can turn that guide off if you want, just by clicking on that cross. The way I use pre-clean is I just about cover the blades with a little drop of washing up liquid. You can put more water in, but I like to sort of try and save as many resources as I can. So I just find like covering the blades with a little bit of washing up liquid does the job. Don't put loads in. Actually, we've had customers report that their Thermomixes start bubbling if they have too much washing up liquid in there. So if that happens to you, you know what you've done. Okay, so when you want to use the pre-clean function, you will come across this screen, and you've got 4 options essentially. So if you've been making bread dough, you would just click on to dough. If you just want to give it a universal clean, you just bring the dial around to universal and it will start. If you have been working with particularly sort of greasy foods or making caramel, which can stick quite strongly to the bowl, then you can use the caramel setting. And then if you've got a browned base, you can use this browning function. And it will try and remove the brown base, although I haven't had much luck with that particular one. I just tend to use a little bit of like a nylon scourer to get in there. But so you'll see there's sort of 4 notches on the dial, and you just turn that silver button round to the relevant relevant mode that you want to use. And then it will automatically sort of detect how heavy your bowl contents are, and it will give you sort of a time that it's going to run its pre-wash cycle for. And it's usually somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes. Now, if you put warmer water on, it's at the lower end of that spectrum, so it's usually about 5 minutes. If you haven't got time to wait 5 minutes, what I suggest you do is just come back to your home screen and then set yourself sort of 10 or 20 seconds on the clock and give it a huge blast at speed 9 or 10. And that's usually enough just to give it a good old wash out. Okay, so we've got a blender, again, sort of does really what it says on the tin, automatically set to 30 seconds, but you can increase the time if you want to. And then you've just got a number of different blending settings as well. Quite often though, again, if I want to blend something, I just go back to my home screen and use B10 because it's really quick. Then we've got the egg boiler mode. So I don't know if any of you have had a play with it yet. We've got the instructions on the front of the mode. And this is where your blades switch off. So don't worry about putting your eggs directly into the water because the blades are not turning. And then you select how you want your eggs cooked. So whether you want soft yolks, medium, soft, medium hard, or hard boiled. Just follow the instructions. And again, same sort of principles as we saw with the pre-clean mode. You use this silver button here just to turn round and select how you want your eggs to be cooked. and they will come out absolutely perfect. The thing to remember that you need to do is just take them out and sort of run them under cold water just to stop the cooking process. But every single person I know that has used this function says it is absolutely spot on.
So you put the eggs in the fridge.
To remember the
eggs in the fridge.
Your eggs. Yeah, the timings are done from chilled eggs. So yeah, I mean, I'm often asked how you sort of play about with the timings if your eggs aren't chilled. My eggs are never chilled. I don't keep my eggs in the fridge. And I tend to reduce the times by a couple of minutes, but you will just need, and it will also depend on how many eggs you've got in there as well. So you just need to sort of play around and find the way that works for you. But if you can remember to chill your eggs in the fridge, then you don't need to think about anything. All the times are calibrated to cook them perfectly from chilled. Ooh. Right, let's go back. So kettle mode. Again, so you can use this appliance as a kettle, quite useful if you're touring around in a motorhome, of course. So you don't need to have lots of different pieces of equipment with you. And the other clever thing with this is that, like the very posh kettles that cost more money than the bog standard ones, you can set what temperature you want your water to heat to or to boil. If you were making coffee, for example, you'd want your water about 80 degrees, but if you're making tea, you would want it at about 100. So again, you just tap on that till it's highlighted and then turn the button. Warm up mode. Yes, this is an interesting one, actually. It's quite useful to be able to heat up your leftovers. I often use the whisk in the warm up mode. So I'm just going to show you how to put the whisk in, and I know I've got some icing sugar in there, so it's not brilliant, but let's just drop that whisk in. It always sits over the top of the blade, so the blades are always in the bowl. They never get taken out unless you want to wash it, of course. Pop the whisk in over the top of the blades and then just give it a little twist. Can you see? I'm just giving it a little twist so it sits up against one of the blades. So either that one, the lower one, or the higher one. It doesn't really matter, but as long as it's been twisted so it knocks up against one of the blades, then that, to all intents and purposes, is locked into position. Now you will still be able to remove it quite easily, she says. There's a little bit of resistance there, so don't think because you can pull it out it's not properly locked into position. As long as it's butting up against one of the blades, it won't ping out. And you can't use the whisk above about speed 4, although Tom Aitken's very naughtily on a YouTube video uses it at about speed 8, but the manual says not above speed 4. And the reason for this is because it will be turning so quickly, there is obviously a risk that it's just going to ping out, and then it will get caught by the blades and smashed up inside your machine, which means you'll have to ditch whatever you've got in the bowl, and you'll have to buy yourself a new butterfly whisk. So yeah, just try and remember. And in fact, it's written, speed is actually written on the blade. I'm not going to be able to get it out. There we go. Bash. The speed is actually written on the blade, and it says there max 4. So they do try and remind you of that. Then we've got our thicken mode. So that is useful rather for things like cooking gravy or making a hollandaise. So again, if you're on a guided recipe, it will automatically come on for you. So if you follow a hollandaise sauce recipe, it will say add the egg yolks, add the butter, add a little bit of vinegar or mustard and some seasoning, and then the thicker mode will come on, and all you do is just turn the button and it will start. I quite a lot make my own gravy using this mode. So after I've steamed all the vegetables for the Sunday roast, I will decant all the cooking water into a separate jug. I just make a roux, cooking out sort of butter and flour together for a couple of minutes first, and then I pour all the cooking water in and the juices from the meat. And the advantage of this mode is, of course, if you're doing it in a pan, you'd have to incorporate the water gradually and stir it as you go along. But obviously you've got a Thermomix to do it for you, so you don't need to worry about all of that. I just put all of my cooking liquor in here, and then just click start, and I've got gravy out within about 8 to 10 minutes. The other thing, of course, you can do is caramelize some onions first as well. So you can just follow the caramelized onion setting. So that's great if you want to have them with sausages, something like that. So you
just on the thickening.
Yep.
Sorry, Lindsay. And there was a question in the chat from Vicky. She made some barbecue sauce at the weekend, which turned runny. Can she thicken it up in the thickening mode with anything?
Well, I would just perhaps reduce. I would tend to just reduce it a little bit more. I mean, I suppose you could start, like, add a little bit of corn flour, for example, and cook it for a bit longer. But if the sauce is runny, it suggests to me it hasn't reduced enough. So I make tomato ketchup in here, and my ketchup, I actually don't follow the recipe. I use another recipe, which again I should put in my created recipe, shouldn't I? Really. And I have to cook my tomato ketchup in here for about a good hour to an hour and a half, and then it will thicken down. So it may be that you just need to cook it for a bit longer. So if you go back to the last settings that you use and then just cook it again, that might resolve it for you. If you want to add something like corn flour, I would just make it into a paste with a little bit of water, and then just continue, and then just pour it in as the mixture is heating up, so that the blades catch it and it just incorporates it for you. There you go. Okay. So that's the thicker mode. Then the rice cooker. So you can cook rice in here. I still prefer to do the steamed rice recipe, steaming rice in here over water. But if you're going to use the rice cooker mode, you would need to use, there's a rice cooker collection on Cookie-Do. So it will tell you exactly your quantities, the amount of water you need to put in, and it will give you different options for other grains. So things like millet, bulgur wheat as well, and various different types of rices. So I think there's brown rice and basmati and long grain rice on there. Okay. Then fermentation mode. So this is a great one actually for making yogurt. And let me just, I'm just going to go and get one of my yogurt pots. Hold on. If I haven't got one already in this fridge. No, I think they're all in the other fridge. Okay. Just bear with me. So are there any other questions in the chat while I've disappeared off camera?
No, I think
okay, great. I'll grab my ketchup while I'm out here so I can show the consistency. Okay, right, I'm coming back in now. Right, so I've got these little yogurt pots here from, I just ordered them from Amazon. They're Reken, R-E-A-K-E-N jars. Now, I believe Thermomix are also going to be releasing their own yogurt pots. I don't think they're on the website at the moment, so it might be worthwhile waiting, because they've been designed to fit perfectly in the Verona unit. I'm just going to turn that up. I won't. So as you can see, these yogurt pots sit nicely in here, and then the lid goes on. So all I do when I make yogurt is I use the creamy vanilla yogurt recipe. I'm not sure if it's on this machine or my other one. I can have a quick look down on the recently cooked. I haven't done it for a while because I forgot to put in the skim milk powder, and now the children are being fussy about it. So we're not using it as much. No, here we go. So if I just go to my creamy vanilla, I'll search for the actual recipe. It's probably in my bookmarks. So it would be easier to search it like this. Creamy vanilla. Here it is, creamy vanilla yogurt. So this is an Australian recipe. We'll talk about filters in a moment when we go and have a look at Cookie-Do. But if you haven't got your filter set up correctly, you won't find this unless you are searching on all English recipes and you remove the UK filter. So if I just click on start cooking, so what it wants me to do is I'm going to weigh in some milk, vanilla, and then I'm going to cook it for 10 minutes at 80 degrees. Then I'm just going to allow it to cool. So take the lid off, cool it to about 45 degrees. It will tell you on the Thermomix screen what your bowl temperature is on your temperature dial. Then you add either some yogurt starter. So if you're in the habit of making yogurt, you can just add in your previous one of your jars from your previous batch. Then I actually increase this, so I double this to about 120 grams, so it becomes really thick and creamy. Yeah, add in your milk powder, add in some caster sugar if you want to. If you don't want sweetened yogurt, you don't have to. Then it will stir it for you. Then it will say, here you go, divide between the glass jars. So that's when you pour it into your jars in here, like that. And then you just want to give your mixing bowl a rinse. It tells you exactly what to do on the screen. Put in a little bit of water, so only 250 grams, some lemon juice, concentrated is fine. That's really just to stop the blades going rusty. To be honest, you don't really need to put that in. I quite often leave water in my Thermomix bowl all night long when I've forgotten to put it in the dishwasher after I've run the pre-clean mode. And they're absolutely fine, but you know, it probably is better to put the lemon juice in, and then at least you follow the instructions. And then you just simply pop the dish on top. So when you put your varoma in, you always have your measuring cup out, because you need the hole there for the heat to rise. And then you pop the varoma up on top, and then your fermentation mode will come on. It's usually set to something like 10 hours, 70 degrees. So what this means is the bowl temperature is going to reach 70 degrees, but obviously up here, it won't be 70 degrees. So you'll just get some like residual heat floating up. And then this will be at the ideal temperature for fermenting yogurt, which is around body temperature, so 37 to 40 degrees. And then all you do is click start. I love making yogurt. It's just so, I find it quite therapeutic actually, and it's one of those things that is so easy to do. And when you come down the next morning to a whole like 12 jars of freshly made yogurt, it's really, really satisfying. And then you can make your own strawberry jam or lemon curd or Nutella to go alongside it, so you can sort of make your own Muller corners. And that's when the cost savings really start to add up. So I worked out, as a family with 4 children, my kids' Muller yogurt habit was costing an awful lot of money, each of them having like a Muller corner every day. Now I just make my own yogurt and add a dollop of homemade strawberry jam, or the lemon curd is absolutely delicious in yogurt, or Nutella, and make sort of a chocolate hazelnut yogurt. And I save myself about £10 a week just making yogurt alone. Obviously save more if they won't eat it, so that's even better. But you know, it's one of those things as a Thermomix owner, you'll quickly start to make your own things like vegetable stock paste, which again saves you a lot of money off buying stock cubes. You'll want to make your own butter. That's very easy. It's cheaper to buy double cream than it is to buy butter. You can whiz up your own butter in less than a couple of minutes. Just make sure that your cream is at room temperature when you're doing it. If you try and whip really cold cream, it tends to stay at double cream for a very long time. So that's a great tip for you. If you don't want to inadvertently over whip your cream, make sure it is really, really cool when you're whisking it. But yes, things like yogurt are fantastic to make and great fun, will save you a lot of money, and just generally they taste really good as well. So it's worthwhile having a play and doing it. Okay, so let's go back to our fermentation mode. So, I mean, if you want to, I quite often, if I'm just going to ferment dough, for example, I'll just turn that right down. The minimum is an hour on here. 70, and then just click start. But you know, your dough will quite happily ferment there in about 30 minutes, so you can just stop it after 30 minutes. Then slow cook. Again, it does what it says in the tin. So here are your 3 dials. So you've got your time setting, your temperature, and your speed. I would recommend, if you want to use your Thermomix to slow cook, you certainly need a blade cover, which is an optional accessory. We are redesigning the blade cover, and that will be relaunched at the end of this year. And that is, it's going to double as a potato peeler or a root vegetable peeler, and you can peel ginger as well. So if you haven't got one already, it's well worth waiting a few weeks until the new peeling version is launched. The blade cover is just designed to sit over the blades and stop the food coming into contact with them. Have I got one to hand? Here it is. Got appliances coming out of my, or accessories coming out my ears in here. Okay, so the blade cover's got 2 sides to it, and all you do, I've got a clean bowl to hand, all you do is, there's a sort of a raised profile on the top, and then a kind of a recess on the bottom, and you just drop the blade cover over the top of the blade. Just give it a little twist until it sort of sits comfortably on top of the blade. There are quite a few recipes now which do require a blade cover, even if they're not being slow cooked for a period of time. So you do really need one of these. But like I say, if you can wait a few weeks, it makes sense to wait for the new version. So that's slow cooking. And again, go back to a collection. There's lots of, you can find like a beautiful slow cooked beef stew or sort of a chicken version as well. And then sous vide. So there's going to be a lot of sous vide happening over the next few weeks, I should imagine, because lots of customers who are buying their TM6 will be buying the sous vide bundle to go with it, which is great. So you'll have that vacuum sealer, a blade cover comes in the bundle actually, the bags and a pair of tongs. And sous vide really is just a method of cooking which you would come across in fancy restaurants. Quite often you will see sous vide like fillet steak on the menu, and all it does is you're cooking your protein in a constant temperature water bath. So you would use your kettle function to bring your water up to whatever temperature that you need it. So generally when you're sous videing, you're going somewhere between sort of 50 and 65 degrees, for example. And then whichever, you would set your time to whatever is dictated on the recipe. Again, if you're following a guided recipe, all of that will be done for you. You really don't need to worry. But the great thing about the sous vide bundle that we're also selling through the website, so existing customers can buy the sous vide bundle as well. At the moment, there's 20% off, I think, this month. There's a handy guide in that bundle as well to tell you exactly how to sous vide. So you've got 30 minutes here, for example, 40 degrees, and then this will be full of water, and you just drop your vacuum bags in and just cook away for an hour. And then you can just splash it in a pan at the end, sort of in a hot pan with some butter, just to glaze the piece of meat. So it could be easier to do. It sounds a little bit complicated, but it really isn't. And it's very worthwhile trying out on a lovely piece of steak, because I can guarantee once you've eaten sous vide steak, you probably won't want to go back to cooking it any other way. So there we are. Okay, so although my husband is of course trying to tell me that his way on the barbecue is the best way. Yeah. Saturday night speciality. Right. Okay, so I'm just going to have a look at Cookie Do now. I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to get it open on, I just shut all my other tabs down. Has anybody got any other questions for me? Have you all been using, I know we've got some very new owners on here. Have you all been using what? Just try and shut everything down. Close tab, fabulous. Close everything down, that'd be easier, and then I can just go straight to what I'm trying to show you. Okay, right, let's go to
Lindsay.
Yeah.
The only thing that I found some people can do is override the speeds, the blade speed. So, like with some of the chicken, some of the curries, sort of, you know, when the lid, you can keep twisting the dial until the lid closes. Once the lid closes, you can override the blade speed.
Yeah, there is a little bit of resistance there to overriding it, but yes, you can override the blade speed. So, I mean, generally you wouldn't want to. Of course, if you're on a guided recipe, that setting has been preset for a reason.
Oh yeah, it's usually accidental, completely accidental.
But accidental, yeah. But yeah, it is just to be aware, you do have full manual control over every setting on the Thermomix. So even on a guided recipe, you can interfere with the dials and set the time differently. If you want to cook for less or more time, you can set the temperature differently and the speed. Yes, so do be careful of that. Yeah, we did actually accidentally end up pureeing a risotto a while back when my son was cooking, and he thought it said speed 10 and it wasn't, it was speed 1. But we turned it into arancini, which were deep fried rice balls, so we sort of saved the day. Right, if you can see my screen here, this is cookie dough. So I need to just move my toolbars out of the way so I can show you. Let's move this one out of the way as well. Okay, so I've got access to all the functions. Okay, so this is what your recipe app will look like. And I think the first thing to say to you is just make sure that your filters are set up properly. So if you go to view profile, you can see with your search preferences, your search filter preferences, you need to scroll down. You need to make sure that your Thermomix version is set to all, language is English, and country or region are set to all. So you mustn't have, if I go into that, I'm not sure I can actually on here. If I go into that, you need to ensure that you've unchecked the UK country box. This is the biggest question we get asked: why can't we find a certain recipe? And the answer will be because often recipes get shared through the customer group on Facebook, and there is always a question asked: why can't I find a particular recipe that somebody shared on my cookie dough? And the reason for that is your filters will not be set up properly. So you need to make sure you've got English set and then your country set to all. So I always, when I am searching cookie dough, use the little search magnifying glass on the screen, and then you can just type whatever you want to search for into the toolbar at the top. Right, if I just move that out of the way. So you can search either recipes, and you can see some of the things. These are my historical searches, what I've been looking at, or you can search for collections. Now the collections, interestingly, on the filters, these seemingly the filter settings that you set up under your profile do not actually unfortunately seem to apply to the collection books. So you will be shown every single language here, which some of you might find brilliant and others might just find a bit distracting because it will take you ages to search through 5,000 results. So in filters, you do need to click in here, and there you need to just highlight the countries that you want to show. So I would just recommend going for Australia, Canada, the US and the UK, and then you will narrow that down to, if I just show you that, Australia, Canada, where's the UK and the US? The US and the UK, and it should take you down to, yeah, just under 600 results. So actually you can see the Sous Vide guide is on here under collections. So if you are interested in sous videing, it might be useful for you to save that as a collection. So to do that, could you see I clicked on that? That went a little bit quickly, but I just clicked on the cover of the recipe of the collection book, and then you can just click save. And so once you save that, that will then appear in your saved recipes under your saved collections. So there are lots of recipes. It's like in there, the sous vide aubergine, that sounds delicious. Sous vide osso bucos, that's a good one as well. They will tend to have longer cooking time, so beware if you want to sous vide and you're doing something slightly complicated as these, you know, you need to allow yourself the time to do it. But generally, if you just sous vide a piece of fish, you usually do it in about 30 minutes. Okay, so let's just come out of here. I just need to move my So if I go back to search, let's just click the back arrow. So here I'm searching in the collection. So you can just scroll down all these collections, and it's quite interesting. Cookie Do is a great place to sort of while away a little bit of time, and you know, whilst you're drinking a cup of tea or a glass of wine. And I always say to people that sort of the more time you put into Cookie Do, the more you'll get out of it, because you will find so many recipe books and just recipes that you can save and have at your fingertips through your recipe folders. So, oh look, there's a saucy sous vide there. That'd be an interesting collection. So whichever one you want to save, just click on it. So if I go for this Taste of South Africa, and then I can press save, and then I'll just show you where they go. If you go into my recipes, it will go into the saved collections. Sometimes they appear straight away, sometimes they take a little bit longer, but that was called Saucy Sous Vide, wasn't it? So that's quite memorable. Let's see if it's gone in here. You can have a look through. Yeah, it is. Oh no, Saucy Soto, so it hasn't quite appeared in there yet, but it will do. Okay, brilliant. So that's that one, and you'll notice that the recipe collections, that's no problem at all, Vicky. I know you have to drop off. We won't be too much longer anyway. Recipe collections or the saved recipes look exactly as they do through your Thermomix screen. So you've got your created recipes. So these are my folders. You've got your saved recipes and you've got your bookmarks. So if you just come and search at recipe level, so if I just go back to my search function and go and search in recipes, and I'm just going to click, well, I'll just search for something here like I search for, so quiche. If I want, then it will bring up a number of different options for me. Some more quiche-like than others, evidently. But say, oh, I like the look of this quiche Lorraine. If I click on these three dots, I get the option. I can put it into Cook Today, where it will go into my weekly planner. I can bookmark it. I can add it to one of my collections. I can add it to my weekly planner, or I've got the option to add it to my shopping list. So if I add those ingredients to my shopping list, I'll show you what happens. And then say for this one, I want to add it to my week. So I'm going to cook it, say not today, but I want to make it for lunch on Thursday. So let's click that. Now, say I also want to cook, let's go back in here, the sweet potato and spinach curry with cauliflower rice. I know I'm doing that tomorrow with somebody actually. So I'm going to add that into my week and put it into tomorrow. So it's there ready and waiting for me tomorrow. And again, I can put it onto my shopping list if I want to. So then I just need to come back to my week. And you can see I did this beautiful soup today, actually, without the fish. I did it for the children's lunches this morning because I've got lots of sweet potatoes to use up, and it was absolutely delicious, sort of Thai flavors, lots of garlic and ginger and Thai curry paste. So you can see now I've got my weekly planner on my screen. And again, you've got access to your weekly planner through your TM6 screen as well. So this is what I've done today. This is what I've got in for tomorrow. And then we started to plan our demo, our cooking demo for next week. So again, that's one to mention. We're doing a demo next week. So we've got lots of recipes, really lovely sort of winter warming recipes to show you next week. So if you want to see us do some cooking instead of me just talking to you about how amazing the Thermomix is at cooking, then do join us next week, because the idea of those demos are for new customers, obviously, to see the machine in action, but for our existing customers to find out about new recipes and just pick up lots of tips and techniques. So these will be some of the things we'll be doing next week. And these are some of the sort of the short list that I was very tempted by, and I will just hold some of them back for future demos, but I'm quite keen on doing these Garibaldi biscuits, actually, they look fab. So that's the weekly planner. And then if you have a look, it will also show your shopping list, and you can click on show ingredients. You can look at your ingredients by either the category that they're in, so that might be useful if you're walking around a supermarket, or actually by recipe. I prefer to look at it by recipe. If you've already got some of these ingredients, you can just take it off your shopping list just simply by checking the box. So I know I've got eggs, I'm just going to remove those, so they disappear. And I know I've got pepper, so that disappears. And I know I've got milk. So you can edit and amend your shopping list. And actually, if I've got a plus thing here, yeah, you can add some additional items. So if you want to put tissues on there, for example, you know, whatever it is that's not going to appear in the ingredients on a recipe, then you can just add your additional items. So I'm going to put in foil, for example, and wine, something like that. Okay, so once I've sorted out my shopping list and I've got it, I've got everything that I want on it, I just click order ingredients, and then I get these options appear. Now, we used to have Asda and Tesco on here, and they did briefly reappear in the summer, and they've just disappeared again, unfortunately, because there's a bit of a glitch with the integration, and it isn't actually our end, it's their end. So they are working on getting that resolved. But for example, if I just click on Sainsbury's, it shows me how much this is going to cost at Sainsbury's. Was it? I don't know where I can see the total price, but I'm not used to doing it on the website. I think it might actually be at the bottom where I've got my toolbar. There we go. So add to Sainsbury's cart, it would cost me just under £30 at Sainsbury's. I can easily change the store. Maybe if I want to go to Ocado, it'll show me how much it costs at Ocado. So that's a really great way of comparing your shopping prices at different supermarkets, and customers are able to save quite a lot of money in that way. So let's just go back to my Thermomix, and I think that's pretty much everything I need to show you on here. So the other thing just to say is just make sure that your privacy settings are sort of set up in the right way. You want to accept their recommended preferences, because it will mean that they send you based on your kind of browsing history, what you look at and what you cook, they will make recommendations for you. So for me, it obviously thinks I make a lot of comfort food. So I've got some suggestions here as well, and that sticky Jamaican ginger cake is delicious. You will always see the latest recipes first, so these are obviously part of the Sous Vide collection, and then this is also quite useful to have a quick look at to see what people are cooking. So obviously over the weekend, lots of people were having lazy brunches and making pancakes and waffles and this and crepes and the brioche berry pudding, which does look absolutely delicious. And then you also have some articles down here. So I liken this part of Cookie D to sort of reading the Waitrose Food Illustrated magazine. There's lots of really useful articles, and you can just scroll across and see what the most recent articles are. And it will spotlight a certain recipe. So this is where it's really, really good for inspiration, actually. And then here you've got some video tutorials as well with a chef. So this is quite good for knowing how to shape bread or work with pastry. So there are lots of step-by-step masterclasses on here. So Cookie Do is just an amazing source of inspiration for you. And then again, some favorite recipes. So this is why I think customers find that there's always lots of inspiration when you have a Thermomix. And let's just stop this screen share actually. Go back to my go back to Zoom. Ooh, stop share, there it is on my Mac. Yeah, so customers will benefit hugely from having a look through Cookie Do, but also use the Thermomix Whiz customer group. That's what it's there for on Facebook. So if you're not already joined to that group, ask your advisor to invite you and join the group, because we have lots of customers sharing the recipes that they've cooked on a daily basis. We share lots of tips and techniques and also recipe suggestions for you to try. So you're really not at a loss when you have a Thermomix for lots of new ideas. And that is one of the biggest reasons why people buy them, just to make cooking a little bit more fun and a bit more interesting, and to get out of that rut that we often find ourselves in. So hopefully you've all found that useful, this session useful this evening. Has anybody got any further questions? I wanted to sort of be done really within about an hour and a quarter, and we're just coming up for that. So I'll just have a quick check on the chat. But you know, if you've got any questions, feel free to contact me or go directly to your advisor as well. That's what we're here to help you with, and that is sort of one of the biggest differences. When you buy Thermomix, it's not, you don't just get the machine, you get somebody to hold your hand and help you encourage it, help encourage you to get the most out of it. Oh,
Christine has asked a question that I haven't got around to answering yet about the vegetable soup. I have just looked through my vegetable soup recipe. There is right at the end, there's a minute blending, so I don't know whether it should have blended the soup. She had hers didn't blend, but
oh yeah, because you need to turn it up. You need to turn it up. It says, which one is that? The creamy vegetable soup?
I'm not sure.
It usually says start on speed 5. And then did you turn it up to speed 10 during that time? And if it didn't blend up to a smooth consistency, it would be, I'm assuming, because you didn't actually blend it on speed 10. Okay. So I got mine last week, but it didn't have transportation lock on. Could this have caused any damage? No, they don't usually get sent out with transportation lock on, because it would confuse customers, because they wouldn't necessarily know how to switch the transportation mode off when they get it. Yeah, I think if it hasn't blended properly, you may well have inadvertently missed a step out. It is, sometimes it's quite easy just to skip a step if you're just a little bit quick with your fingers. And the other thing you can do is just turn, if it's not blended enough for your liking, just turn the speed up until it is. Great. Oh, Marie. Oh, hi, Marie and John. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you hop on at the start, because I don't think you're on gallery mode, but it's been lovely, yeah, to see you. I'm glad to hear. Thank you for that lovely email you sent me as well. I'm glad to hear you're getting on so well with it. So, and let me just say here, hi Liz, hi Megan, and Alona as well, or Iona. I never know how to say your name, it's dreadful, isn't it? Hi Liz, hi, she's waving away, that's brilliant. And Julie, hello Julie, with your bags of wonderful Synergy products. Yeah, really good to see you. Okay, so if nobody else has got any questions for me, then I'm just going to close the meeting down, and I will stop the recording. In fact, I can stop the recording now, and then I will upload the recording to YouTube, so you can watch it back if you want to. And yes, I will send the recording out to everybody that's registered for the demo, of course, yes. So you'll always have it as a handy reference. But thank you for joining me this evening, everybody, and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.